controlling the minds of so many killers.
This dissociative personality he goes into, whose personality is it?
Has Will been finally pushed too far?
This could be someone who knows.
Hello everyone and welcome to another video by Centipede Geek. Today I'm going to discuss my thoughts and opinions upon the NBC television series known as Hannibal. I'm going to talk about episode 12 titled Releves. And without any further ado, let's go and get to it, shall we? So, just so you guys know, major spoilers will be in this video, so if you have not been watching Hannibal previously today, make sure and go ahead and click ahead and skip the next minutes to my review when I actually start reviewing it after I talk about the plot. That way things won't be spoiled. But if you don't mind spoilers, go ahead and keep watching, right? So pretty much at the main gist of episode 12 of Hannibal, we have, of course, Will Graham, played by the great actor Hugh Dancy, and then Mads Mikkelsen playing our character of Dr. Hannibal Lecter. And what we have in this episode, if you've been watching previously, you know that our character Will Graham has developed a sort of dissociative personality disorder. And if you've been watching the series, you know exactly what's happening. Is, pretty much, he sleepwalks, he has hallucinations, and as the series goes on, these hallucinations have become more and more and more extreme, and they've become, downright, costly to his entire life, so he's becoming, a different person pretty much. And, he's developed, this disorder where, he sleepwalks. He's not even, it's pretty much this disorder, he's not even in the right state of mind anymore. Ticking time bomb sort of thing. Just think, of a ticking time bomb. That's kind of what Will Graham is. So we have that going on. And pretty much the main gist of episode 12 titled Releves for the NBC television series known as Hannibal is Will Graham is starting to make connections to previous murders that have been happening in several episodes. They have already found, several suspects, to these, the copycat, and they've already, put a few, killers away in jail in previous episodes. Well, he is starting to make connections with killings that have already happened with, murder suspects they have already put in jail for these killings. He is starting to make connections saying, I think somebody else is involved. He's starting to make connections all the way back to when Garrett Jacob Hobbs, died. He's starting to make all these connections back, the murders involving, Abigail Hobbs, when she killed, Nicholas Boyd's, I believe that's the name, when she killed, Nicholas Boyd's character. And, so he's starting to make all these connections. And Jack Crawford, played by, great actor Lawrence Fishburne, Jack Crawford's character is pretty much in this episode. He is wondering, he's pretty much wondering, whether or not these connections are true, or if Will Graham is just starting to lose his knack for solving crimes. He's trying to wonder, are these connections true, or is Will Graham just completely lost it? Because in this episode, Jack Crawford does not yet know that, Will Graham is suffering from a dissociative personality disorder. And of course, in this episode, he starts to find out, what Will Graham is actually up to, and he starts to realize the relationship that Will Graham has with Dr. Hannibal Lecter and their friendship that they have developed throughout the series and that whole thing. That's pretty much the main plot and the basic, gist of episode 12 titled Releves for the NBC television series known as Hannibal. And there's also other, things going on, such as, we have, the girl that had her, skin, the arm, flesh ripped off her arm. We have that going on. She actually dies in the beginning of this episode. I thought it was just a, a flashback, hallucination sort of scene, but it was actually, it actually happened. It was actually the, friction that the comb created through the girl's hair, and it caused this fire to erupt inside this, oxygen tank, whatever it was. And I thought it was just a, a hallucination or flashback scene, but it actually happened. And it seems that it was actually set up by Hannibal himself. So Hannibal, has been planning this for a while now. And you can, especially the way this episode ends, you can really see, what Hannibal has been doing and how much of just a crooked villain he is. And, it's just, and a great villain, by the way. And that's pretty much the main gist of it. They when this girl dies, once the girl, when the fire erupts and everything, once that girl dies, this is when Will Graham starts to realize that the connections from one killer to another killer, and they all lead back to Dr. Hannibal Lecter, and the connections he is making to each killer are in fact true. He is not, it's not his disorder, it's not his, hallucinations or anything. Even though they're getting more severe, they're not getting in the way with his knack of finding out who the killer is. Everything he is saying is true, and he is, finding out that, Dr. Hannibal Lecter is in fact our, cannibal killer. That's pretty much the main gist of episode 12, titled Releves, for the NBC television series known as Hannibal. Overall, my thoughts and opinions on episode 12 of Hannibal. This was an amazing episode. Definitely my favorite episode by far. And let's talk about why. First of all, the dialogue in this episode was absolutely amazing. I mean, yes, the dialogue and the script and the screenplay and all that kind of good stuff, the direction that the series goes, it's always written in a great way, where every interaction with the character is always done in a great way. Well, episode 12, titled Releves, for NBC's series known as Hannibal, it does it in an even better way. Episode 12, every interaction with every character is just great. I mean, the dialogue is so crisp and pristine and unique. Especially when Will Graham's character starts to actually make the connections. I didn't expect the connections to trace that far back. I mean, the 12th episode starts to actually connect with events in the first few episodes of the series, and I didn't expect that to happen. So that was really cool, the way the events actually connected themselves, and just the dialogue is just great. Especially towards the last 20 minutes of this episode, when Jack Crawford starts to become suspicious of Hannibal, when he finds out that Hannibal has, not told him certain information. Hannibal is actually trying to protect Will Graham and also protect Abigail Hobbs' character. Jack Crawford becomes suspicious of this and says, hey, what kind of relationship do you and, Will Graham have? And he finds out about their friendship, and he doesn't exactly know that Hannibal Lecter is the killer yet, but he is about this close to finding out. And that's just really cool, the way that things are setting up for the season finale, episode 13, titled Cyberrex, which actually airs next Thursday, 9 o'clock Central, and then 10 o'clock for everyone else. So you can really see the great setup that this episode did for the entire, this episode is setting up for what I can already tell is going to be a great season finale of the NBC television series known as Hannibal. I love the scene with Jack Crawford where he comes in there and he just, he starts, he says, what the heck is, going on? What's going on with you? And he even goes and questions, what's her name? I forget her name, but he even goes and questions, Dr. Hannibal Lecter's, physician or psychiatrist, or whatever you want to call it, the person that, he goes and see, for psychiatry work. He goes and questions her also. So that was, Jack Crawford is getting closer and closer. And, the best scene in this entire episode is the scene with Mads Mikkelsen playing Dr. Hannibal Lecter towards the end, with him and Abigail Hobbs, when he's sitting there, saying, I'm sorry I couldn't protect you. And then it ends on a complete cliffhanger, setting up for next, I'm sure the whole series will probably end on a cliffhanger of some kind, probably. But this episode especially, probably the biggest cliffhanger the series ever had. Another favorite thing about the episode was the actual connection that it made with what Will Graham was, because in this episode, pretty much, we have Dr. Hannibal Lecter, and it seems like he's been doing this the entire season. He is setting up Will Graham's downfall. And I honestly thought he was trying to become friends with him. It seems that he was, and I think he is somewhat friends with Will Graham, but it seems that he is letting Will Graham take the downfall for the crimes that, Hannibal Lecter actually committed. So it's like, Lecter has been setting this up for some time now, and you find out in this episode how crooked he is, because he has been setting up Will Graham's downfall for, a whole, 13 episodes if you include, next week's season finale. And you can really see how, just how crooked of a guy he is, because, he's setting up, in this episode, this series has been setting up for Will Graham to be a ticking time bomb, where Will Graham is actually, he believes he is coming the character of Garrett Jacob Hobbs, which, as we know, was the, the first guy he killed in the entire series. And the series has been setting up for him to become that certain character whenever he took Abigail Hobbs' character back out to the cabin. And that was just a really cool connection that it made with, him becoming, Abigail Hobbs' father, in a sense, because he's one of her, legal right guardians. And I really love the scene, like I said, with, the hair taken to the cabin, and, it's a hallucination scene at first of him killing her. And then we realize, that she didn't actually die. And I thought she did. And I was like, oh my God, this series is getting, if this series was extremely amazing, and now it's just getting more amazing as the series goes on. overall, I really enjoyed episode 12. Great stuff, and I can't wait for next week's episode. Once again, thanks for watching another video by Centipede Geeks. Next week's episode is episode 13, titled Severex, and that's for the NBC television series known as Hannibal, coming on every Thursday night, 9 o'clock Central, 10 o'clock for everyone else. Like I said, next week's episode is the season finale, 13 episodes only, and then it's already been confirmed for a season 2, which will air next year, 2014, probably early next year. I assume, let's see, the first season aired in April, and I assume sometime in April of next year they'll have a season 2. So once again, thanks for watching the video by Centipede Geek for my television review of the NBC television series known as Hannibal, episode 12, titled Releves. Once again, thanks for watching the video by Centipede Geek. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe on our page below, and I'll see you guys later with more videos by Centipede Geek.